In the previous video, we made this miter sled for the table saw. Now we're going to put it to use and make some picture frames. Now that we've finished making all our mistakes, we have a picture frame. I think overall it turned out really well. It's obvious that the bottom piece of maple is a little too thick. I'm not sure how that happened, but I'm still happy with the overall frame. The miters turned out excellent, which I think means our jig from last time is working as it should. The splines, I should have spent a little bit more time making sure they were exactly flat, so I had to fill in a few gaps with sawdust, but I think they look okay. The big mistake that I made really was rushing my measurements, and I got the rabbets wrong, so it was a little too wide of an opening in the back and not quite tall enough. Initially I thought this would be fine because I could just cut the mat down by a 1/4 of an inch and that would be okay, except the problem was I wasn't thinking about the glass pane, and I didn't want to cut off a 1/4 of an inch of glass because I just thought it was, I don't know, with the way my luck was going, it was probably going to break in the wrong direction. So I decided to extend out the rabbet and get things to fit that way. That meant the back was a little bit rough, but since I could put paper over it, it didn't matter too much. When I was finishing it with the spray lacquer decided to become spit lacquer and put some big globs on it. I'm not sure if other people would have noticed, but I certainly did, so I took the time to sand it down, get some new spray lacquer, and refinish it. I think that was probably the right call, even if it was a little frustrating.